to know each other. Okay, because many who are interested in finance and get know more about how AI is enhancing or maybe doing wonders in finance. So the first session will be from Emma. She will present Lumira and what he has done in the past and what her experience is about AI and how it is changing everything. And afterwards, I will explain more about what I'm doing and especially regarding financial planning and analysis. And then we can discuss later about other stuff.
Yes, and Zafar and I have been discussing this quite a bit, and we know that there are so many different perspectives to bring up in finance, investment, fintech, which is also the reason why we're going into specific topics. And we also very much encourage you to think about topics that you would want to present or knowledge that you would want to share moving forward. And I'm also happy to share more of what we do in this field, because of course this is just a matter of scratching the surface a little bit. But essentially, I run this boutique advisory firm. We are focused on responsible AI strategies, supporting leaders in making better decisions, essentially. I've co-founded this agency together with Allegra. She's from the US and she's our CTO. So she has deeper technical background, whilst I'm more of let's say a translator. I have good technical understanding for someone who is more on the business side of things. And as I mentioned before, I also have a legal background and I've been working a lot with natural language processing. And we work with different industries, but our main industries are really fintech and finance. And a big part of this is because we've had some very popular clients in our portfolio that are very known all over for their AI use cases as well. So that is basically what we're doing right now. And when it comes to AI in most industries, but also in the industries that we're focusing on today, is that we're seeing this massive transformation. I'm sure that you are all aware of it because we're all here for a reason. We see the potential that AI has. And executives have this immense pressure to understand and to tap into the return on investment of AI. And that turns out to be trickier than many people thought. And a lot of decisions are misdirected, leading to a quite high number of AI initiatives failing on an enterprise-wide basis. And the main gap here is essentially executive enablement and AI literacy. And that is why we're focusing on this. We work across organizations. So we also work with more finance-specific topics. But today I will focus on some of the things that we see that the conversation is lacking very often, and where we also, as leaders, all of us in this meeting, we can add this perspective to our ways of analyzing problems and creating solutions. And I believe that it will bring a lot of value for you to get a deeper understanding of this. So feel free also to ask questions at any point. Today we'll be focusing on Klarna. Klarna is a bank that is not like any other bank. It's a fintech. It's based in Sweden, but it's really global by now. It's been growing very fast as well, and they are known for their AI use cases. Klarna has the same investors as OpenAI, meaning that by the time the world had access to OpenAI, Klarna had already been using it internally for some time before. And we are Klarna's strategic advisors, so we have quite good insight into what is happening behind the headlines, and we have some learnings to share from that as well. So that is what we will be looking at today. Some of you might have seen this already. For some of you, it might be the first time, but Klarna has essentially done this loop where some of the first headlines that we saw in relation to the wave of generative AI transformation was this first one, saying that the Klarna AI assistant is handling 2/3 of customer service. We don't need people anymore. Klarna has automated so much. There's so much efficiency to it. And then going back, now in 2025, so that's 1 or even 2 years later after Klarna started working on this, they are rehiring people and they are changing their strategy on AI. And something that these headlines don't show, because there's a lot of, let's say, sensational value as well in the headlines, which is not really reflecting the deeper thinking and the deeper learnings from all of these reflections. So that is what I will be showing you today, essentially. So far, does anyone have any questions or input? No, I see heads shaking. Feel free also to write in the chat if you have thoughts or something coming up. Zafar, I see you unmuting as well.
Yeah, I think it will be very interesting for Linda, especially because she's also working in fintech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, could be. What I'm also seeing with this is actually that Klarna is a bit of a first mover, and fintech in general is just moving faster and in a different way than the standard financials and financial field and bank and investment. So part of the reason why I'm showing you this as well is to encourage you to think about, even if Klarna is a very specific organization as such, what are things that you could take from this specific organization or adapt from what we've learned within Klarna and take it to your mindset as a leader, but also how you would develop whatever project you're working on at the moment. And essentially, with AI, we have this fundamental choice as leaders. We're looking at either replacement, so I can do more of the work that I'm already doing, and therefore we don't need as many people in the organization. We can fire a lot of people. And that is the mindset of many investors that we're working with today. They are calling us and asking for our expertise in terms of how can we replace people as fast as possible with AI. The second option is augmentation. So how do you work together with AI to do better and more impressive work, essentially, without necessarily replacing humans with AI? And there are a couple of risks related to this replacement mentality, because it's mainly based on companies, leaders, investors viewing AI as a normal technology, as something that we've seen before. If we can get cost savings, then we should cut out the people. But this is a bit of a misunderstanding, and it's quite dangerous in a sense, because if you have a company and if you're working with something specific, only you will know the main value of AI related to the tasks that you have at hand. And if employees fear being fired for efficiency reasons, you won't know. You won't even have the use cases that you need to know where AI is the most useful or not. And we see this deep expertise being extremely important, actually, to even understand how you can use AI in the best way, to also have someone that has this the sense of what works and not. And it's extremely important. So also, if we're about to see an explosion of productivity, you should probably keep the people that knows your company well and that knows the process as well, because in that case, your company will be 100 times as productive, right? Together with the volume of people that you have involved. So that is, in a sense, our way of thinking about it. And it's just setting the base for this short little presentation that we have at hand today. I'm going to present a little analysis of what we've learned from Klarna so far. If we look behind the scenes and behind the headlines, but also beyond the tech, because something that we see a lot is this blind spot in leadership behavior and organizational strategy. The tech and the tech teams is normally not where POCs fail, where AI transformation initiatives fail. It's actually in the leadership behavior and in the strategies that you set for the rest of the organization as well. And when it comes to leadership as such, we have three main parts that are important and something that you kind of need to cover regardless of the size or the type of the organization that you have if you want to use Gen AI efficiently. And that is, as I mentioned, and as you might figure already, the C-suite level engagement. So how are they themselves engaging and learning Gen AI? We have the lab component. So where do we have the people basically doing crazy things, experimenting, failing, trying out new things? And then third, we have the crowd. So everyone in the company getting access and sharing the value that they get out of it and sharing their learnings. When it comes to the leadership as such, as I said, curiosity, the ability and the mindset of failing forward, knowing that everything that you try in relation to AI is not going to work out, but you're learning along the way, is extremely important because the leaders are setting the tone for the rest of the organization. And this is also super important for you to think about in the way that you use AI. Some people might hide it for different reasons, but if you hide it, you're also not going to set the tone in your company that there are so many good use cases for it. And you also have to learn together and share together and share both success and failures together. We've seen this at JP Morgan, where we have Mary Erdoes. She really demonstrated her use of AI quite clearly, and this trickled down through the organization really well. And then we also have the crowd. So the fact that everyone gets access to Gen AI tools, they can try it. So that's one important part of giving it to the crowd. But then you also have to incentivize them to share the learnings that they have once they are using it and showing that how they are using it essentially. And if you have this, if you've reflected as a leader that efficiency gains equals people getting fired, people won't share their learnings because they know that if they come up with a good solution, they might risk replacing themselves. So you have to create that psychological safety to ensure that people share their learnings, share their experiments, share their failures in order to build on as you go related to what's important for your company or your organization as such. And then the third one, as I already mentioned, is this lab, the crazy scientists that are trying things together, looking at the main success cases and then turning it into different products internally. And this is also something that Klarna has been doing super well. They have not only been looking at customer support solutions and so on, they've also been looking at where is our data, what are the most common use cases, where can we not support our employees at the moment, and how can we turn that into something that our employees internally will use every day and that will help them move faster and solve the problems that they need to solve better in their work. We also see a vision problem. Sash.
One question I had, so when you work with the kind of leaders around finding uses, stakeholders, and kind of the reason to do this, what are kind of the biggest challenges you face? Like the lab thing is very interesting, but actioning something like that is difficult in type of organization, especially regulated industries like finance. So what are the first pushback you get from leaders on that?
We get so much pushback, but it's also a matter of reframing what it is, I would say, because one of the main problems that we see is that people are missing the common vocabulary and they don't have the same way of talking about things. And once they actually understand each other and once they understand us, it might not seem so radical anymore.
Yeah.
So that is a very big thing, just taking things down to basics and looking at, do you need this? Do you not need it? If you don't want to do it, then what's going to happen, essentially? And we always also say that the biggest risk of all is becoming completely irrelevant, right? And that is a quite big risk right now.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I would say a matter of transparency, this thing of communicating what your plans are when things are moving so fast and shifting so fast is also something that leaders don't want to do because they put themselves out there. But without having that communicated in the organization, guess what? Your employees are not going to understand you, or your team is not going to understand you. So that's a big one. And then the last one, the last pain point that I'm getting to here as well is this vision problem. So taking the time when you are an operator, when you are an executive and you have lots of things on your to-do list and you just want to keep on going, especially in a company that is running as fast as Klarna, is to take the time and to broaden your mindset in terms of what do we want our organization to look like? What kind of AI leader am I? And to really set that vision. And it seems to me like it's always convenient to push it ahead. But the more you push it ahead, the less you're also lacking the only clarity that you can have, essentially, because the vision is like an anchor. When everything else is moving super fast, your vision is going to stay the same, and that is going to help you navigate.
That's great. It just makes me think of that week. It was a period of 1 week where the CEO of Fiverr, Duolingo, and Shopify released these 3 internal memos of wanting to be an AI first company. One of them released it, it was leaked. The second one was afraid it would leak. That's why he released it publicly. Yeah. And they landed very differently. And it's all about what you're talking about, how to communicate that vision and how to ensure that you're not alienating your best people, best talent. And it's a tricky thing. And just like humans do, we push our problems to the future. We don't want to deal with them right now. And that just translates to organizational issues too. So that's great insight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's also seeing how owning your narrative is becoming increasingly important.
Yeah.
Because you cannot really hide behind PR strategies when things are moving as fast as they are in this digital world as well.
Yeah.
And something interesting that we've seen with that as well is that PR announcements and announcements to employees is increasingly happening in a very casual way. So over Slack channels, moving away from emails because it's considered to create this gap between you and your team, and also doing it on LinkedIn to communicate it and to really own your narrative and to be able to also interact so that you can correct any type of misunderstandings that people might have, because there's a lot of fear in all this AI transformation wave. That's something to really recognize. Moving on, looking at the organizational strategy, quite fast. I'll go over this. So there are a couple of tendencies that we see that Klarna has been doing well to some extent. They have had other challenges to some extent, but we've learned from it and we see it. And we also see it in other organizations. These are sort of common denominators for the organizations and leaders that are doing super well with this. And something that I really believe is going to be quite an essential part for those who do well as we move forward with AI. And that is the first one being, instead of looking at hierarchies, you look at clusters of people. So who do you need to reach? Knowing your stakeholders and not creating this massive information gap between the top and the bottom, and instead shifting that, because insights from the organization and knowing how your organization moves with AI, that is what's going to make it easier for you to navigate and to learn. And the two other things that I'm mentioning here, they are very related to this as well. So instead of having a set role definition that people might be scared of losing, recognize their skills and how they can use them in different settings and in relation to different problems. So instead of giving someone very specific work tasks, you look at what are the problems that we need to solve, what are the skills that we need to solve those problems, and how do we collaborate, and what are the resources that we need to solve those problems. And this is a quite big shift, especially for big organizations that have been moving in hierarchical structures all the time. And I'm not saying that you should remove all hierarchies, but it's more a mindset shift in terms of recognizing that we will be able to move very differently with AI, and probably your organization will move differently regardless of whether you want it or not. So you might as well enable that as much as possible. And then we also have the skills, and what we see is becoming more and more valuable for hires and for the people that we're working with. Management roles. So thinking, deep knowledge, and especially about systems, because it sounds quite clean when we're talking about systems, but systems in real companies, they are messy. And for someone to be able to spot what you can remove from a process and what is completely essential and how that correlates with other processes internally and externally is super important. And that is sort of more the broader type of role, like when you have this ability to think and reflect and to see different systems. And then we have the experts, because any type of expertise is performing better currently than AI in any field. And again, it's a matter of sensing also, like when can we use AI and when doesn't it make sense to use AI? And we also see, right, we mentioned legal agreements, for example, before. It's great to do semi-legal agreements, as you called it, or I don't remember what you said about it, Linda, but having the support of AI is great. Until you're risking something big, then you need the insights of an expert that has this layered knowledge and that knows what the real questions we should ask are. And then the third one essentially is people with really good taste, because around all of this AI slop that we're seeing, and with all the amount of information and content that we can produce very easily now, having someone that is able to spot what stands out and what can cover several different business cases or use cases with simplicity is something that is really standing out with some of the people that are also using Gen AI and leading with AI in a good way. And that is essentially it for today. Of course, we've worked across a lot of different organizations, and we work regularly with investors. I wanted to take a quite narrow approach to this so that we're able to get some depth to what we're talking about as well. But for any other session, I'm happy to also talk about some other learnings that we've had, and I'm also happy to answer any questions or comments that you might have on this right now.
So, thank you, Emma. It was great. Any questions? Here, guys.
Yeah. Hey, this is Chandramouli. Hey, Emma. So amazing insights into how companies should think. And I was just wondering if you could share your perspective on the fact that you don't necessarily need to move your folks away, right? And you did kind of touch upon this briefly. But can you also look at how you approach the market differently, right? Manpower is one area of efficiency, of course, right? But let's think beyond the manpower equation and see if we can do more vertical integrations or horizontal integrations as a business using AI and therefore build the ROI out of it rather than focusing on the people aspect of whether can we replace people or can we just augment their ability to go beyond. And given that this session is around finance, right, I was thinking of there are companies that do a lot of fintech for a particular strata of people, but if you go lower, right, the more underprivileged class, they struggle, right, to kind of give the services to these folks. And now AI can be helped to cater to this strata that was untapped.
Yes, absolutely. Again, like this is a very specific session that really focuses on the leadership and the people aspect of things. And to start with, I would say that by having this approach that I mentioned earlier in terms of how you define the skills in an organization and how you relate to the people in the organization, you will have good innovation cases coming up, which also leads to other types of problems that you're solving. And then secondly, if we zoom out and if we look beyond the leadership approach that Klarna in this case has and what we've learned from that, AI is giving us the ability to serve the market in a completely different way. And we've already seen this with other types of digital evolutions, right? In a sense, where you have microfinancing, you have the reach that you couldn't have before. If we just go back to physical banks, if we're going to go back to the OG banking, then it's changing a lot of the possibilities that we have with this, and that is something that we should probably, I would love to talk about that as well in a session the next time, because it's super interesting in terms of what are the problems that we can solve and how does this make it available for us to solve it with lesser resources or with different resources. So that's super good input as well.
I think finance is a really big place. There are so many facets, and I think this is maybe also my intention, okay, to have this in a regular form, so we can explore different parts of this fintech, of the corporates. Or, but Chanamoli, you was telling them. Okay,
Yeah.
So maybe we can go on. Otherwise.
Yes, I'm gonna drop out. So I wish you a great rest of the session, and just reach out to me. You find me in the Perplexity AI Fellowship group, or you find me on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, thank you for your time, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you, Emma.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Emma.
So let's try to share my screen. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
So now we are okay. Emma is very on high level, and she has also done a lot of work in this field. But now I'm working directly in the business, and a very special business in Europe. So my part is so I'm working in Luxembourg and Frankfurt. I'm based in Frankfurt, and it's actually fund management. So my position is currently at my company. I'm a head of fund controlling, and reporting. So I'm the direct contact to different international investors. And I'm also the permanent representative of the Luxembourg Alternative Investment Fund Management branch in Germany, in Frankfurt. So I was working, I don't know, since I started to work, I'm working in the finance industry, worked in different parts. So I worked in the industry, I worked in real estate, and now working since 2018 in the alternative investment branch. Currently, my team and me, we are managing different types of fund vehicles, especially Luxembourg fund vehicles, with 1 billion in alternative assets. So I wanted to present you how the Luxembourg fund management or the alternative investment fund management works in Europe. So most predominantly, if you're not from Europe, if you think to invest in Europe, in the past, before Brexit, London was the main hub. But after the Brexit, because most people who wanted to invest in Europe had a base in London, for example, but they wanted to invest in different types of real estate assets or other alternative investments all over Europe. And predominantly, Germany is always, as the biggest economy in Europe, is maybe the first economy where you want to invest. So now Luxembourg, because Luxembourg is a small country in Europe, within Europe, and it is also part of the European Union. So it means you can incorporate one Luxembourg company and you can buy assets all over Europe, especially the European Union. This is why Luxembourg is so popular by investing this. So it's a high regulated market. So it means if you want to do something and you want to invest as a big investor, Luxembourg is maybe the best place to do this. So let me go on. So it means what is an AFM? So an AFM is alternative fund management. So it means you need a license to incorporate different fund vehicles. So it means and these fund vehicles can own other SPV structures, and with these SPV structures you can own different assets all over Europe. The main part of the work is doing portfolio management, valuation oversight, risk management, then different parts of reporting, especially very many regulatory reportings that you have to do. The compliance and governance topics are also a major part of our work. That means, as you can see here, why AI can play a huge role in this field is because we have to fulfill a lot of regulatory stuff and reportings which we have to do. And obviously for asset management, the NAV calculation is also a major part of it. So this is what we are normally doing for our portfolios with the Luxembourg structure. This overview shows you the AFM ecosystems and governance. So it means you have different types of regulations, CSSF, and in Germany it's called BaFin. So it means you have to create different setups, cross-border setups, if you want to invest in France, in other countries, or in Germany. So it means this is really it's not very easy, and you need the best structure to do this. And the most of the structures are structured in this way that they are tax optimized. That means you want to pay less tax, and this is how or why Luxembourg is so popular here. So to go on, you can also have, if you have some questions, you can ask me directly. Yeah. So if you speak about if somebody wants to invest in a German real estate assets, how does it work? So it means the first thing is you will incorporate a Luxembourg holding structure, Luxembourg fund structure. You will invest your money there. And later on, this fund structure will own different SPVs. And these SPVs can also be German SPVs, for example. With the German SPVs, you can buy different types of assets, real estate assets or something, some other parts. And so it means this is how it is normally structured, and you have to do a lot of reporting, you have to do a lot of analysis, and so on. And this is a highly regulated structure, and you have to fulfill different parts of regulations, and you also have to do a lot of reportings. And this is why AI will also play a huge role in this regard. So why does especially fund management needs this shift? So the processes are actually very Excel-based. So it means we are doing a lot of manual stuff. Our reportings are very, let's say, hands-on, and are very, how I can tell it, very, so it means we are doing a lot of ad hoc reporting. So it means while we are doing a lot of cross-border accounting, etc. So you won't have one system which can show everything, or maybe you can fulfill all the requirements, the German requirements which you have to fulfill, and Luxembourg. And then, for example, if you have invested from another vehicles, for example, from Bahamas or Singapore, then you have to also fulfill this one. So it means there's a lot of process inefficiency. So it means you have to do a lot of manual work on this regard. Excel is actually the main tool which is used in here, and the requirements are getting more and more complex. And because this is also why AI can also play a huge role in this regard. Yeah, and obviously the expectations from our investors is also very huge, because we have different types of investors from Middle East, from US, from the European markets, and every investor has his own specific regulations which has to be fulfilled. And you can understand that because of this, we have a lot of reportings which we have to deliver to all our investors. So this is why AI can play a huge role, and this is why I'm also very interested in this regard to bring this change also in this regulated market. So the first thing is it's very easy. So machine learning powered forecasting will be a huge thing. So it means if you are managing assets above 1 billion, you can understand how much work this is. So it means you need a really good team, you need good systems, but in future you need also AI tools, or maybe forecasting tools, to get the best results for the future projections, and also identify different potential risks which currently which we actually also are having. I think the biggest change came with the start of the Ukraine war, because at that time the interests increased rapidly, and this changed the whole market in Europe especially. Another part can also be scenario simulations, because you have to stress test all of your funds, and to maybe catch all the market volatilities, and this is also to provide more robust risk management frameworks. So this will also help. And beside of this, but I have identified, maybe also my team, that you have a lot of documents, and because we have to work with different law companies, etc., that NLP-driven document parsing is also a huge thing. So it means this can also help us to understand, or maybe to reduce the manual review time. For example, if you want to analyze, okay, if a structure is correctly implemented in our systems, etc. And obviously, intelligent dashboards. This is why maybe also maybe Perplexity can also play a huge role in this regard. We have also tried this, especially Perplexity Labs, to have the data in a really good overview, visualizations that our management can take the right decisions, and our investors have the data in real time, for example. And this is, I think, very important in today's world. So how is it changing from my perspective? So it means from the perspective of a controller or financial planning and analysis. So in future, what I think will happen is that you will become more and more a co-pilot where you will use different types of AI tools, different types of generative AI tools, and also maybe also the future agents. So what is important? The three most important parts are, according to me, is to have a real-time insights about what's currently happening. Normally, so it means moving beyond traditional month-end reporting. We have to come to a continuous monitoring and analysis. I think this is really important and also crucial. And this is also a part where different or maybe new startups and can also bring also a change in this regard. You need integrated data pipelines. This is very important. That currently, what I have experienced in my field is that different companies, different investors, because we are working with big hedge funds, etc., they're using their own systems, SAP, Oracle, or other databases. And what we need is that to integrate the data. And I think AI can also play a huge role in this regard. And will also save a lot of costs and also a lot of time. And most of the time is that these workflows are also, let's say, a bottleneck at our side. And obviously, the investor communications. So it means if you can provide precise or maybe good information, insightful information to the investors, this will also strengthen and increase the trust. And maybe the investor will also invest in more in your investments that you are offering to them. So,
Zafar, I just got a quick question, if you don't mind asking. The one thing which I generally come across when I speak with people who work in hedge funds or the VC is all about the data, right? Because generally, even there is always an issue of how the hedge fund reports. This is like a kind of like a joke people kind of make because it's very difficult to pull very exclusive data that comes from specific hedge funds or even for the VC funds itself. Sometimes even the fund only project the best vintage year or probably the best the return of investment. So sometimes they don't really because there is no kind of like a mandate for any hedge fund or for a VC fund to publicly disclose those information. So my question here is that how do, say, for example, someone who would actually want to make a change in this space would work around with this, or how do they can actually collect those data in a smart and in an unbiased manner?
I think it depends which data is needed from the investors. So it means we are working now. We have a big portfolio of 7 real estate assets with a size of 140 million. And there's a big American investor who has invested in this in Germany. What he needs is actually not full investor reporting with different dashboard or something like this. He told us, okay, he presented his templates. And what we have to do is we have to provide all the templates, because the thing is, the most difficult thing is in Germany, if you collect the data has to be in a certain gap. So it means you have to fulfill the German, for example, if you have invested in real estate or maybe in other assets in Germany. So it means you have to fulfill all the regulations on the German market. So it means you have to do you have to use the German GAAP. You have to fulfill this. So it means you will be using let's say a bookkeeping system who is fulfilling the German stuff and so on. Then then the cross-border thing, which is happening. So this will be translated to the Luxembourg fund, for example. He has invested over Luxembourg in Germany. So it has to be, so it means Lux GAAP will be used, and you have to fulfill all the Luxembourg regulatories. So, and then because he has invested via the Cayman Islands, so it means we have to translate this data to his GAAP, American GAAP, for example, in this regard. So it means this is, and the translation is mostly happening manually. And this is the main problem which we are facing, because we have to do a lot of work. And one of my employee is only doing this because we have to deliver this investor, this American investor, everything on a monthly basis. And so it means you can see, because we cannot connect all the systems, because we are using a different system and the American investor is using a different system, and we have to find the right interfaces. And how we are finding, or maybe which tool are we using for this, is mostly Excel. And this is maybe also a problem which we have to solve. And in this regard, I see a huge potential that AI can also help in this regard.
So if I do understand it correctly, so your pain point over here is that how do you basically build an unified way of declaring that data, right? So like, for example, you have to report the data across multiple jurisdictions.
Yes.
And your pain point is basically how can I actually make things more seamless across different geography. And historically, people do all these Excel models, and they create those models to report that data across multiple systems. So I thought, I think I kind of lost there, because I was basically thinking about how do you basically pull that data to create dashboards for the investors, because I'm coming from a side where I was looking at like, how do I manage to get the data from a hedge fund or a VC fund in a realistic manner, so that me as an LP, that I know how well these funds are performing.
Absolutely. So I think this was an example of one investor. So it means it is, for example, some LPs are more interested in the dashboards on which you are referring. What we have done in the past is we were using different data warehouses. So it means we have created in the past. 10 years ago, we were speaking of big data. So with different cubes, we have created different dashboards, and these dashboards were presented to our LPs. I think this can be. I think this can in the future is. What I'm thinking is that with different promptings and so on, if the data is, I think this is the most important thing here: integrated data pipelines. If this is, if you can deliver this to your LPs, or maybe if you have this at your site, then with AI, it's absolutely possible to maybe send a chatbot to let's say to your LP, and he can write, and because everything is in real time, it's possible that he get the data, or maybe see the performance of his investments in real time. I think this is where currently I'm working for one of my LP.
Just a follow-up on that question. So this is basically your individual pain point of how you can actually seamlessly communicate with your LP with interactive dashboard. But as a market, do you see an opportunity, say, for example, a fintech or a company to come into the picture and then, build a kind of an app or a solution that could, like the same way people does it for deal rooms and things like that. So one thing I heard from people is that it's very difficult to get data from individual firms because they don't normally share the data, because there is no need for them to share the data as, like, say, for example, an SEC report or something.
Yeah, so we are also not sharing the data. I think this is important. But I see a huge potential in this regard, in this market. If a startup or maybe a fintech can work in this regard, then it's a great potential.
If I may pitch in with an LP perspective, because I think what you spoke about resonates very much with me. I find as an LP investing in funds, the KYC process is completely insane, especially in Europe. And so, each fund has their way of doing it. But each fund, especially in Europe, I see the process taking anywhere from 3 to 6 months. In America, it's around 1 to 2 weeks to do the KYC. And I think, in part that's because America has much more relaxed regulations, but I also find American funds tend to be a bit better at digitizing the process. Another thing that I would add on here is that if as an investor investing in alternative assets, I think you do expect to have, it's not the same as when I open a brokerage account and I can see the value of my public stocks changing daily. So I think the expectations of visibility is a bit lower. I think in certain semi-liquid evergreen funds, they do monthly reports, some others do quarterly reports. But even then, our reporting cycle is quarterly at best. It's more, we optimize for annual. So I think that's transparency is, it's important, but I would put the compliance in terms of KYC onboarding, LP experience as significantly higher.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's also a big change, for example, if you have invested in real estate. No? So it means much things are happening. For example, in Germany currently, micro-living assets are booming. And obviously you have to do a lot of work on this side, on the operations of this. So it means the LPs are interested to get the information about how the occupancies went from 1 month to another month, and have my rents increased, or maybe other capex or other costs which were not planned occurred, and so on. I think this is very important. Why you need, or maybe take the decisions very fast, especially in real estate assets. And you have to be. You don't need. I think it won't work if you get the data once in a year. You need this data actually each month. And for example, if you can build let's say a real integrated data pipeline, and an LP, or maybe at least the GP who has to take the decisions, get this data in real time, I think then the possibility to have a better performance will also increase. And in this regard, also many investment companies are interested in this technology. And I see also a huge potential in this regard, that if you can deliver this, as automation and also maybe a good forecasting, this will also lead to, let's say, a good potential to get a startup, or establish a startup.
And one follow-up question, sorry. How unified these data sets are? Is it like every firm has its own way of doing it, or is it do we have a very uniform way across different firms?
I think in Luxembourg, you have to fulfill the Lux Gap or IFRS, for example, and the data is accordingly collected. Or maybe it has to be done in this way. So at least the financial data. Then obviously it depends which assets. So it means we have also one fund which we are now currently incorporating. This is a fund with the current size. It will start with 70 million. So this will be carbon credit fund, for example. So it means this will be calculated differently. I think this is one of the first fund especially a regulated fund in Luxembourg. So let's see how this will happen, because we have to evaluate each transaction, has to be evaluated, and each quarter an external appraiser has to give us the, let's say, the value of the certificates on each period, and then it has to be booked accordingly, and then based on this we will calculate the performance. So this can be differently. Then you have real estate data, then you have different other alternative investments. Yeah, it's not so easy to unify this, but the financial data is at the end the same, and based on the financial data, you will calculate your performance of the fund. I think you can, Bhagesh.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Hi, Zafar. This was a great presentation. I'm Bhagesh. So I do not work in any financial institution, as in investment institution, but I do work in industry. So I come from FMCG background. I'm working as a FP&A analyst over there. My question is more of, for lack of better words, a philosophical question per se. You being a leader in this and thinking about bringing in AI into processes and let's say transforming the ways of working in the financial industry, how do you think about bringing that change in the organization? And for me, the question kind of stems from my inability or lack of technical knowledge in terms of IT coding and all those sort of things. But then how do you tackle, or how do you proactively take steps to bring in these changes that you aspire to bring in?
Yeah, I think this is very important because I visited one session regarding FP&A, and I like this slide very much, what you can see here. So it means the FPA structure is also changing. So it means we have to think differently currently. So, and there was one session which I attended in Frankfurt, and we were discussing about these 5 critical roles which you need, which you will need in the future FP&A team to bring the best performance. So the first one is FPA architect. So he's the one who understands. So it means at the end you need sometimes you don't have the luxury to have, I don't know, many people. Sometimes it's always a question of the budget, but these are the roles which have to be fulfilled. The first one is architect, so it means design integrated financial system, serves as a bridge between finance and IT functions, because this is very important. You need this knowledge. The other one is the analyst. So this is maybe the classical role, which was understood in the past. This is also needed, that you need understanding of the data to drive decisions and have somehow a deep financial expertise. That means if something happens in the financial statement, you need the knowledge. Okay, what does it mean, and which impact will it have on my profit? Then FPA data scientist. This is a bridge between finance and data science. This is very crucial, but I think, and now these 2 roles are new. So the first one is FPA storyteller. So it means this is what has to emerge in this role. Is narrate the data for strategic decisions by making complex financial insights accessible. This is where AI will also play a huge role. So it means if AI is implemented in different corporations, you need this knowledge. But Emma is also referring to this, and you have to build by, if you get the data from your tools, etc., to narrate this data and make, or maybe present this to the decision maker, that the decisions can be made. And obviously, FPA influencer guides the strategy with insights and exercise influence without formal authority. So it means he has to. This will also become a crucial role for this. So it means builds relationship to ensure financial guidance is implemented on the senior management level. I think this is very important, and this is also getting more and more popular when AI is implemented. So FPA translator, I think prompting will become more important. That means you need somehow the knowledge, okay, to understand how the raw data, or how you can transform the raw data to a meaningful insights, etc. Then FPA connector links business units with solutions to understand the whole organization. This will become also very popular, and this is, I think, also a really important role when you want to integrate the AI agentic frameworks that AI orchestrator, manage the integration of AI agents in your FP&A workflows. And this is where I also see where also our financial or finance or FPA roles are heading to.
Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for this insight. I think then the management also has a crucial part in this, wherein they have to, as Emma also mentioned in earlier session that
Absolutely.
they have to reskill the existing talent and match their skills to whatever is the
Absolutely.
emerging needs.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think, I believe, especially you're also working in FP&A field, our role will also grow and get more importance in future when AI and also other different, especially the agentic AI frameworks are implemented in companies.
Yep. And I can see that already in the industry, to be honest,
Yep.
especially in the FMCG space, wherein data is not that regulated. As in, I used to work in regulated industry in audits, financial audits, where data is kind of secured and stuff. But FMCG, you kind of have data coming in from different sources, but you don't have enough resources to churn that data into insights.
Absolutely.
And that is where probably something needs to change. But yeah, thanks for the insights.
Yep. Yeah. So, thank you very much for your attention.